All right, so welcome everyone to today's virtual tech talk called Discover Digitization. My name is Casey. I will be your host today. I'm the Digital Services Coordinator for Martin County Libraries. And I'm also joined by my colleague Manny. He will be moderating our chat. So if you have questions today, just go ahead and throw them into the chat and Manny will go ahead and ask those questions for us together today. Now, just to give you an idea about what we'll be covering today before we dive in, first of all, we're going to define digitization. What exactly does that mean? The bulk of our time today will be going through the specific digitization equipment available at the Martin County Library System. We'll cover different options, whether you're digitizing photos and film, different video formats, music, sound clips, and finally, microfilm and microfiche. Before we wrap up, I do want to just tell you, in addition to all the equipment, all the other resources and people and learning opportunities that are available to you as we progress, as you go on your journey of digitizing your life. I've got some props with me today too, so I'm going to leave my video camera on, but just so you know, kind of I'll be demonstrating and showing you what I mean with different pieces of equipment as we continue. But first and foremost, let's start with a definition of digitization. This one is from Oxford Languages and defines digitization as the conversion of text, pictures, or sound into a digital form that can be processed by a computer. So you've heard the term analog in the past. So a cassette tape, for example, is an analog piece of media, a piece of sound. Digitizing it would be an MP3 that we listen to on our phone or on a computer. That's the digital form that a computer can read without a separate piece of equipment. So that's kind of the basic definition. I really like this particular definition from Wikipedia. Of course, as a librarian, I'm going to be interested in the purpose of digitization. So here we read that digitization is a means of creating digital surrogates of analog materials. And I love that because they're companion pieces. So oftentimes we might digitize something we love or hold dear, but we don't ever get rid of it. We use the digital surrogate so that for two different reasons. Reason number one is that we create an accessible means of viewing the content. So if I have a home movie from my childhood or a wedding video that is only on VHS tape, if I don't have a VCR, I can't watch that. So digitizing something kind of brings it into the current age so that we can watch it on a computer, we can watch it on a TV, we can upload it to YouTube if we want to, we can save it to a USB. So we have access to that content because libraries are all about providing access. Now, the second version, though, the second reason is just important. And the second reason is that you want to capture that information or that data before your original piece of tape or media deteriorates. So VHS tapes, cassette tapes, some of the things we're going to be talking about today, they get wear and tear. And how do we capture that information before the wear and tear is so much that we no longer can use it? So number one, we digitize to preserve the content and also to create an accessible option as well. And then since we're talking about preservation, I want to talk about why we preserve our materials in the first place. And I found this great quote by William Murtaugh, the first keeper of the National Register of Historic Places. Now that's a parks thing. That's like the, Teddy Roosevelt's house, or that's the National Park Services, the federal organization. But I still think it applies to our personal lives because, as he says, at its best, preservation engages the past in a conversation with the present over a mutual concern for the future. So it's all about sharing our experiences and sharing our lives with future generations. We want them to understand who we are, where they came from, and that's what preservation offers to us and to our future. Now, the American Library Association, which is public libraries kind of like mega organization, the parent organization, they have every April, it's usually the last week of April, they offer Preservation Week, and they have different webinars on different topics. This year's theme is more of a, like, what's the environmental impact of all of our digitization efforts? So if that interests you, you're welcome to view that. I'll send a link to the website in the follow-up email that I'll send out next week, but they also have old webinars with previous themes. So like I started to watch a webinar on preserving your family recipes or preserving family keepsakes like jewelry or a baseball, or all the different things that we think about in our day-to-day lives that we keep stored, and best ways to kind of preserve that for future generations. So that being said, that's enough about preservation and digitization and the theory of all those things. Let's get into the brass tacks of how you can digitize your personal collections. Now we're going to talk about photos and film first, because it's a very common format. We get lots of questions at all of our branches about this. And speaking of, a lot of what we talk about today, I'm going to be talking about specifically available at the Blake Library in Stewart. But for photographs, every branch is equipped with an Epson flatbed scanner, which is like the one you see in the picture here. These scanners are high resolution scanners, which means they're very well equipped to capture as much detail, color, crispness, all that good stuff. It captures that during the scan. And there's even like built-in fixes in the scanning software. So it might do some color correction, or if your photographs have like a sepia tone or a scratch on it somewhere, the software has the option. It's just a little checkbox that you can ask it to do some of those fixes for you. So with these flatbed scanners, with photographs, you can fit up to 4 photographs, kind of depending on the size. You can fit up to 4 photographs face down on the glass bed. Now, I talked about the included photo edit, the scanning software, but just so you know, all of our library branches also have the Adobe Creative Cloud available to use on our computers, and it's often paired with the same computer that the scanner is installed on. So Adobe Creative Cloud has photo editing programs like Photoshop, you've probably heard of. Adobe Lightroom is another very popular photo editing, like digital developing software that professional photographers and graphic designers use. So they're very expensive to purchase a license. It's a couple $1,000s a year. But the library has wanted to make that access, wanted to give our community that access. And so every branch has at least one computer with an Adobe Creative Cloud license, in case you're interested in doing some professional level photo editing on some of your photographs. Okay, so these Epson flatbed scanners, like I said, are available at all Martin County Library System locations. And we talked about photographs, but there are other formats of film that you may be interested in digitizing. I've got some film strips and negatives here. Another super popular thing to digitize are 35 millimeter slides. So I brought these in from home just to show a couple examples. Medium format film is another version. I didn't have any of that in my personal collection, but basically how all of this works with the Epson flatbed scanner is that depending on the type of film you have and want to digitize, you will use one of these adapter trays to put in the film strips. And then you'll put the adapter tray on the flatbed scanner. It'll sense what you're scanning and adjust accordingly. Now, the one I usually like to show is the slide tray. Slides are a very common request we get at all of our library locations, and all of our library locations, you can use the tray adapters to digitize. They might not be out with the scanner, but all you need to do is ask the staff, and they'll be able to grab the trays for you to use with the scanner. Like I was saying, all branches have the flatbed scanner and a variety of different trays available to scan depending on your media. I will say, however, that the Blake Library might be your best bet if you're digitizing a large quantity of slides. The Blake Library has the Epson flatbed V800 model. And the V800 model has an adapter that fits up to 12 slides at a time. So most of the other branches, their slide adapter will do 4 or 5 slides at a time. So if you have 20 slides, it's not that big of a deal. If you have 200 slides, it's a different story. And so just to kind of know what your options are, the Blake Library scanner can do 12 slides at a time. So I'm going to pause there. So I'm going to go through each format just so you kind of understand the flow of today. I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions on photos or film so far. Okay, so next we're going to cover video formats, probably our most popular equipment and the pieces of equipment that we get the most questions and most excitement about. So first up, definitely our most popular piece of equipment, but our VHS to DVD converter is an all-in-one device that accepts VHS tapes and then copies or dubs the video from the tape onto a DVD disc. Dubbing essentially means that you will play your VHS tape, and as it's playing, it then records the movie and copies it onto the DVD. Because this method records and copies in real time, you're going to want to be sure to allow enough time for the entire video to play, plus extra time to finalize. Usually we recommend people allow between 1 and 1.5 times the amount of time from the original media. So for example, if you have a 20-minute VHS tape that you're looking to digitize, go ahead and allow 30 minutes to complete the process. 20 minutes to actually play the video, and then there's the finalizing, processing, rendering part of the digitization process. As far as DVDs, so if you have a VHS tape, you're going to need a blank DVD in order to copy it onto. This piece of equipment takes DVD -R and DVD -RW blank DVDs. There's also another version called a DVD plus RW or DVD plus R disc, but this piece of equipment specifically does take the -RW or -R option. Now, I want to go ahead and show it to you because it's fun to do show and tell. So this is the VHS to DVD converter. You're going to put your VHS tape in on one side, press play, go through the setup process to record it over then to the disk drive. So just so you kind of know what to expect when using the equipment. Now, the other thing I wanted to go ahead and mention is the fact that you can come into the Blake Library to use this piece of equipment anytime that the library is open. Or one of the awesome things we offer is the ability to check out this piece of equipment and also bring it home. So we have one copy that lives in the library at all times, and then we have a second one that anybody could check out with their library card, just like they would a library book. Obviously, some people might have dozens of tapes that they want to digitize. And so they don't really have the time or can't make it here, or it's going to take them 10 years if they can only come on Sundays when the Blake Library is open to digitize one movie a week. And so that's where we wanted to offer that second version that you can bring home as part of our take-home tech collection. If you want to use it at home, just so you know, you do need to hook it up to a TV using component cables like these, or an HDMI port. So I know a lot of TVs have an HDMI port. Just know that that's part of the process as well. Just a little bit more about our take-home tech collection, in case you've never heard of that before. For today's context, we are talking about digitization equipment specifically, but just know we also have laptops, cameras, tablets, GoPros, tripods. We've got brain sensing headbands that you wear, that you pair with an app and wear. So there's all kinds of fun stuff in our library catalog. So first thing you need to know about take-home tech is, before you borrow any equipment, we just ask that you sign, one time only, sign our equipment borrowing agreement. And I'll show that to you a little bit at the end. And I'll do a demonstration of this process too at the end of today's class. But once you sign that equipment borrowing agreement, we update your library card account. And so we know we've got that agreement with you on file. Then you'll search the library's catalog. You can either browse, we've got like a little quick link to all of our take-home tech collection. Or if you're specifically looking for VHS converter, you can search in that as well. When it's available, you'll receive a notification. Oh, sorry, when you find what you want, you can either check it out. If nobody else has it checked out, you can borrow it. Or a more likely situation, it's a popular collection, so more likely you'll place a hold. You'll select which branch you want to pick it up at, and then we'll send it to the branch of your choosing, and you'll get a notification letting you know when it's ready for pickup. When you go to pick it up, you will go to the information desk or the reference desk. You'll give them your library card and say you are here to pick up your take-home tech. They'll go through and make sure everything turns on, make sure all the pieces are there. Then they'll give it to you, and you've got it for 14 days, just like you would any other library material. 14-day checkout. You can renew all of our equipment. If nobody's waiting, you can renew it up to 5 times. So your 14 days is up, nobody else is in line, you can renew it for another 14 days. Like I was saying, this is a fairly popular collection, so that's not always the case, but just so you know, it follows our regular procedures for our regular book collections. So that's a little bit about take-home tech. But the next thing I want to talk about is probably my personal favorite piece of equipment, and it's called the Elgato video capture. And the great thing about the Elgato video capture is that it converts analog video, like VHS tapes, to a digital format, like an MP4, so that you can upload your videos to YouTube, Facebook, or just save them to a USB drive and share with your friends and family in a more private manner. This equipment is a lot more flexible in terms of the types of format it can accept. So the VHS to DVD converter only takes VHS tapes. The Elgato video capture, oh, I forgot to show it to you. It's just this tiny little connector piece. So basically this end will go into your VCR, a camcorder, any piece of equipment you would need to actually play your video. And then the other end goes into your computer, into the USB port. So you'll need somehow to play the original video, as well as a computer for it to get converted through. So just like before, you'll press play. There is a software download required with the Elgato video capture. It's free. It's available. You can find it on the Elgato website, or you can actually find it in our library catalog as well. That's going to be part of what I show you at the end. So you can go that. It's basically like filling out an online survey. It's a very easy interface to use. You'll just walk through the steps and click next, and it'll walk you through the basics of how to convert your analog video in the digital format, and then it'll just live on your computer, or again, you can upload it and share it however you'd like. When it comes to planning for space, so here's the other thing when we talk about analog to digital. In the digital world, we talk in terms of gigabytes. So when planning for space, especially with video, think of at least 4 gigabytes for every 1 hour of video. So if you have 2 hours of home movies, allow for at least 8 gigabytes of space that that's going to take on your USB, a hard drive, on your computer, on the cloud, wherever you plan to save it. That's about the general conversion rate that you'll need. All right, questions in the chat. And Manny, I might ask for you to help me answer them so I can take a little break from talking.
Fantastic. So we do have a lot of really good questions over here. What about the 8mm film? Well, for that, you will require the adapter. Now, Casey, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Do we still have the adapter?
For the 8mm?
Yes.
It might depend on the type of 8mm. The thing is, with the Elgato video capture, you're going to need somehow to play the video. And so we don't have any way of playing 8mm film. So as long as you're able to play it somehow, then we should be able to convert it with the Elgato video capture.
Now, the next question I managed to answer already, but is there a charge for scanning photographs? And of course, the answer is no, there's no charge for that. Now, the next question that we have in the chat is, you said you need a TV to do this. Not sure if I understand if we're doing it at the library. Well, if you want to do it at the library, we already answered that question before, but just in case you missed it, we do have a TV here that you can connect our devices. But if you go ahead and check out any of our equipment, you can use your own TV. Now,
yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. The VHS to DVD converter is the piece that needed a TV. Yes. And like Manny said, we've got a special table that we would put you at the Blake Library to use that TV and to be able to plug in via HDMI.
Now, the next question is, can the Epson be checked out or strictly for use at the libraries?
Great question. So the Epson flatbed scanner is only for use at the library. The nice thing about the Epson flatbed scanner is that it's available at any library location, not just the Blake Library. So you could go to Palm City or Indiantown or Hobe Sound, wherever your local branch is, and use the Epson scanner at that branch.
Now, some of the following questions you already answered, but might as well go ahead and repeat them. So we borrow the converter or use it at the library. Basically, they want to know if they can check it out or they can use it at the library, and for both is yes. Both,
yes, yeah, the answer is both. So thank you for clarifying too. I feel like I lost my train of thought with my coughing, but at the Blake Library, we have a piece of our equipment here. We also have a second version of the same equipment that you could check out and bring home. And I can give a little context why. When we first got all this equipment, we immediately put it into circulation because, again, we know people have limited availability and how much time they can spend at the library during open hours. And so we wanted people to be able to bring it home and use from the comfort of their home on their own time. But we found that people didn't necessarily have the confidence to do everything at home. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to offer them to come in and we show them how to use it. And then when it's their turn to check out the equipment, then they're comfortable and they already are prepared with how it's supposed to work and what's going to happen. Because when we first got like the VHS to DVD converter, for example, the holds list was 6 months long. So people would wait 6 months just to get this, and then they'd bring it home and they'd say, I don't know how to use it. And so we wanted to have both options where we could show you how to use it, but it didn't stop somebody else from using it at home at the same time. And so that's why we have one copy at the Blake Library and one copy circulating, regardless of where you live.
And how long is the checkout period?
Checkout period for all of our take-home tech is 14 days.
4 gigabytes to how many hours is the next question?
Yeah, 4 gigabytes to 1 hour.
Now,
I'm thinking
the
I
next
might
one.
have to re-record this for our YouTube channel. I'm sorry.
If you have an analog video cassette, but not the corresponding camera for playing it, do you have recommendations for where a playback device is available?
That's a great question. And I would encourage if anybody has recommendations on a playback device, I'd love to hear them too. We typically will buy from Amazon, but even something like a VCR is not available for sale anymore at somewhere like Amazon or Walmart. In the past, we've been able to get it, but even the VHS to DVD converter, like this is no longer made, just because these formats are getting even more and more outdated, even in the last 5 years. Some people have told me they just go to thrift stores to buy this piece of equipment for $5 rather than paying $500 on eBay. So that's a route you can go. I will just also add in the caveat of, maybe test it with if you're buying something, test it with a tape or format that you don't care about as much, because if you've got one copy of your wedding video, the last thing you'd want it to do is like to have your thrift store or even your Amazon or eBay VCR like eat the one copy of the tape that you have. So not to scare you, but just to kind of have this realistic picture in mind in terms of where to go to buy the hardware to be able to access your legacy videos.
Now, the last question that we have for now, and one of my favorites, is it possible to digitize an entire VHS tape or only portions of that tape?
Yes, it is possible to digitize the entire VHS tape. Both with the VHS to DVD converter and with the Elgato video capture. Because the Elgato video capture needs a certain amount of gigabytes, it will check your computer actually and just say, do you have this many gigabytes? We're not sure, like if you had a USB plugged in, for example, and you had it saving to the USB, it might give you a little error message, but that's a good thing because that means it won't stop at a certain point and just not tell you that the whole thing wasn't recorded. Good question.
We have for now.
All right. Well, thanks again for bearing with me, guys. I'm so sorry. And thanks, Manny, for relaying all those messages and also handling them via the chat. The next type of media format we're going to talk about is music and sound. And you'll see some of the pictures here. We're going to talk about some exciting stuff. The first one being our vinyl record converter. So some of us remember vinyl records. Well, if you have a vinyl record collection or even just 1 or 2 vinyl records, then just know we've got a vinyl record converter available to use both at the Blake Library and available to check out and bring home and digitize at home. It basically just looks like a regular vinyl record player or turntable. It takes, this particular machine takes 33s, 45s, and even 78s. There's a little adapter that comes with it for the 33s, I believe. And it works very similarly to a vinyl player in that you'll put on your vinyl record, you'll plug it in, put on your vinyl record, connect it to a computer. So again, this one you're going to need a computer with software on it. And then you'll start the record, you'll press record and then drop the needle. And again, like as it plays, whatever is playing, scratches and all, whatever's playing will come through the cable that is plugged into your USB port in your computer. And then the software will digitize and record that music for you directly onto your computer. So like I said, you'll need a computer. And if you check out the equipment to use at home, like the Elgato video capture, This one also has a free software that you'll need to install. And again, it's very simple to use. It's probably 3 steps. And step number 1 is like, who's the artist? What's the album's name? And then basically it's starting the record, pressing record, and dropping the needle. So if you know how to use a vinyl record player, the converter will not be very strange for you. And again, I think I said this already, but just in case, available for use at the Blake Library or available for that 14-day checkout. And we've had people bring in like, you know, their great grandmother's choir vinyl record to convert. So even if you don't have a big collection, there was a time when this was the only, one of the few music formats available. So, and I know it's gotten quite popular again, vinyl records. All right, and then of course we can't talk about music without talking about audio cassette tapes. So pretty sure this is my Bangles tape from when I was a kid. But we have our audio cassette converter that actually is the same brand as the vinyl record converter and works the exact same way and has the exact same software. So the Ion Easy Converter software is what you'll do, what you'll use on a computer, either at the Blake Library or at home. You'll take your, basically it looks like a Walkman. If you remember what a Walkman looks like, you'll stick your tape in the Walkman, plug it into the computer via USB, press record on the computer, press play on the converter. And again, in real time, as this plays, it copies the audio into the computer and saves it in a format that is digital. And in this case, it's an MP3 format. So it works very similarly. I will say, if you want to edit or touch up your audio files, there's a free program called Audacity. It has a lot of the bells and whistles as some of the more professional or expensive software, but it's completely free. It's open source. There's a bit of a learning curve. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to learn some of the software side of things. Towards the end, I'll mention we've got LinkedIn Learning. But just in case you're wondering what type of, if you wanted to edit something out or try to remove some of the background noise or some of the scratches, Audacity has a lot of those features available for use. All right, questions on audio formats?
All right, we don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay, we are moving right along. All right, so this is kind of our miscellaneous file formats. I did just want to mention, because this is a big part of what we, the library, offer to the community. Something that you might not have access to anywhere else is a microfilm reader, Microfilm and Microfiche. So in 2017, the Blake Library, we used to have a microfilm machine that looks like the one in the picture, which might bring you back to your college days or researching the library with for old newspapers. But in 2017, we decided to invest in a new microfilm reader, which is very user-friendly. It still takes the reels of microfilm reel, and it's got the forwards and backwards buttons. She's using the knob in the picture there. But you can bring in your own microfilm reel if you wanted, if you had one, and then microfiche records as well. So service records, some people have on microfiche. We will often get requests from people that don't live in the area to find an obituary from the newspaper during a certain month and a certain year. Our local historians are big power users of our microfilm. They're probably people that use it the most, and we love to see what they discover as they look through old microfilm. So just know that that's available. We have spent the last, like, when we got the new microfilm machine in 2017, it's probably 2018, that we decided to try to embark on this 5-year project of digitizing our microfilm to make it a PDF. So one of our librarians here, this is his pet project. He's been doing this for probably 4 years now. And he's digitized the Stuart News, or all of our Stuart newspapers. So even before the Stuart News, I have my notes from him. Even before the Stuart News, there was the Stuart Times that started in 1913. Then the Stuart Messenger, which went from 1915 to 1925. And then the Stuart News is 1925 to today, obviously. Our microfilm goes back to 2018. And so, like I was saying, he spent the last 4 years making all of the microfilm into a PDF version. Much of it, which can be keyword searchable. It's not perfect because the original microfilm isn't perfect, but if it makes searching the microfilm a lot easier because we're so used to just being able to do Control F and search for a keyword nowadays. But there's a lot of back end work that goes into making that happen. So just so you know what's available. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. If you have any, are there any questions? Sorry, Manny.
Yes, we do. We have, when digitizing a VHS tape, if you want to record 4 to 5 short segments from one tape, can you start/stop the DVD, or is it one DVD per each section of the tape played?
That is a great question, and I might defer that to find out more later. So if you could remember that question for me. I know with the Elgato video capture, so the one that makes that use the computer, not the VHS to DVD converter, but the other one, that one you can definitely do different segments and then keep them as separate files or merge them all into one digital file. With the VHS to DVD player, I don't know. I'm not as well versed, or it's been a while, but I have good news for you. So remind me in just a minute. I'll share my good news because we're almost there. Is there another question on that?
How do you access the equipment in the library? First come, first serve? Can I make a reservation? How long can you stay on the equipment? Great question.
Yeah. So all of our equipment at the library is first come, first serve. I can't think of one single time where there's been 2 people to come in and use the same piece of equipment. It's available for a 3-hour checkout. So first come, first serve. If someone comes in at 10:05 and checks out the VHS to DVD converter, they've got the next 3 hours available to use it. And if someone comes in at 10:30, then they'll wait until that person's done, essentially. So we're not taking reservations at this time. But if that's something that we see happening in the future, if there's demand and a lot of people trying to use it at the same time, it might be something we look into in the future. Not sure I got all the questions in that one. Did that cover everything?
That's all we have for now.
Okay, all right. Kind of along the same lines. So next steps. So now you know what we have and you want to come in and use it, or you want to check it out, you want to make sure you're prepared. There's a couple options for you. Number one is we do have this, basically the same session that I'm doing right now. We have in person every month. It's usually the first Monday of the month. So we call it Digitize Your Life, and it's run by our volunteer, Jack, who is sitting down at the table with the blue shirt on. So he's teaching this group of people who've come in to take it, and he'll actually be able to show you the equipment a little bit more if you want to come in person and do like a little bit of a demonstration on each piece of equipment. So at the Blake Library in the back corner, we've got 2 computers and then like some extra table space. And the reason we put the extra table space there is so that we can have the vinyl record converter there for anybody to come in and use. We've got the special software installed on those particular computers for you to come in and to use too. So Jack offers this overview program once a month. You can register online. The next session, I believe, is Monday, May 2nd at 10:30 a.m. So if you're interested in seeing the equipment in action, go ahead and register for that. However, if now, after hearing kind of what we have, you want to get your hands on it, but you think you need a little bit of help, the great news is that Jack is also available all the other Mondays of the month. So the first Monday of the month, he does like an overview of all the different equipment. And then all the other Mondays, he has 1 hour appointment blocks available to work with people individually with their particular collection that they're looking to learn how to digitize. So for the 8mm tapes or film, you know, he's been helping people for 4 or 5 years on this equipment. Ever since we first got this equipment, he was our original volunteer. He's gained a lot of knowledge. He's willing to sit down and kind of work things out with everybody and figure out what exactly you need to accomplish your goals. So he's available Monday mornings. He usually has an appointment, a 10 o'clock appointment and an 11 o'clock appointment, I believe. Maybe it's 10:15. So again, that's one-on-one with our digitization volunteer, Jack, who will help you work through a lot of this stuff. And as a side note, Jack also has some Photoshop skills, some knowledge. So if you're looking to digitize some of your pictures, he might help you touch up some of that stuff in time-lapse. And the purpose isn't to have Jack do all of our chores for us. The purpose is to have Jack teach us how to use the equipment. So then, like I was saying towards the beginning, when you get the equipment to check out and bring home, you're comfortable using it, you know exactly what you need to do. You've bought the blank discs or you've bought the USB drive, so that these options are all available. And these are things that we've learned really help people be able to use the equipment to the fullest. If Monday mornings don't work for you, we have tech times available that all of our staff help out with on all different types of equipment. So if you see something at Blake Library, a tech time available, then just let us know. And of course, you'll have my contact information. So you can always reach out to me directly. And if I think you actually need to be paired with Jack specifically, I'll try to work out a time that works for everybody. So that'll be in the link that I send you guys too, because I know Jack's very helpful. He's helped a lot of people in our community kind of with this initiative. I mentioned LinkedIn Learning, which is a great resource. It used to be called lynda.com in case you know it by its former name, but now it's called LinkedIn Learning, which is a wonderful, it's basically like YouTube for professional stuff is how I like to think of it. So if you wanted to learn, you know, how to do macros in Excel, or even like playing the ukulele or QuickBooks or Quicken, I think it's called, like different types of software, LinkedIn Learning is a great resource to use, and it's by professional instructors. They will give you sample files to practice on. So if you don't even know it, you don't know. LinkedIn's a great place to learn. And so particularly like with some of the heavy duty software, the professional level things like Photoshop, Lightroom, Audacity, the audio editing program that I mentioned earlier, all of those things are available in classes via LinkedIn Learning, and you can access that from home. And there's links on our website too. You can just search the library's website for LinkedIn Learning if that's of interest to you, or ask any staff. We're happy to share. All right, I'm going to pause for questions, but one more thing I just want to mention is basically everything that I just shared with you in video form or virtual class, we have here on our website. So I've got the URL here. This is what the page looks like. We break it up into format because that's what we find that people bring us a particular format, then we can help them navigate to the different needs. So all of that information is spelled out here in writing. So if ever you're not sure where to start, try searching the library's website, and hopefully we've got some information there to lead you to the next place. All right, with that, I'm going to pause and see if there are other questions I can try to answer in the chat.
We have one question.
Okay, great.
If Jack has volunteered for teaching this class, does it mean he has broad experience with various types of analog recording, video and sound equipment? Do you have video and sound editing programs on some computers at the library?
Yes, we do have video and sound editing programs on the computer. So we've got the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite that I mentioned earlier. So Adobe Premiere Pro is one of the video editing programs. I cannot remember the Adobe audio program off the top of my head, but we definitely have that too installed on at least one computer at every branch. Usually it's the Mac computers rather than the PCs, just for everyone's reference. So if you're wondering how to access the specialty equipment, definitely ask the staff because they'll be able to point you in the right direction, but it's usually on the Mac computers. So at the Blake Library, where Manny's sitting right now, he's sitting in our recording studio. And that recording studio has, sound dampening tiles on the wall. It's got specialty recording software on it. It's got basics like GarageBand and iMovie, but then it also has the more professional grade recording and editing equipment for both audio and video. Sorry, equipment and software. And in terms of Jack's experience, I can share with you, he won't mind. He does have quite a lot of experience with Audacity, in particular when it comes to audio recording and audio editing. I think it's more experimental experience, like he's just kind of learned it through his own personal interests rather than professional, but his Lightroom and Photoshop experience might be professional. He might have done that as part of his career. So other than that, I'm sure he'd be happy to share. He's very personable and a wonderful volunteer. And he brought all of that knowledge to us when he started volunteering rather than something he's learned on the job. He's more learned the idiosyncrasies of each particular device as he's been volunteering at the Blake Library.
Now, I just wanted to go ahead and clarify for audio editing, we have GarageBand and Adobe Audition. And I just say, well, we have another question right over here. How do you get on the equipment reserve list for each item to take home?
Oh man, that leads us into my very last thing I wanted to share with everyone. Were there any other questions?
Yes, we have.
Okay, I'm going to pause on that one then.
Yeah, we got here one just recently. Are there any classes offered on the subject of video editing?
Great question. So there aren't any live classes, but what I would recommend is LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is the since we can't offer classes on everything, we don't have the staff knowledge, number one, or demand. Like if we try to teach a class, it would have to be at a particular time that enough people could come. But we do want to be able to provide people access to that level of information and that quality of information. And so that's why we've invested in the LinkedIn Learning platform. So those classes are video and they're very popular. People that use LinkedIn Learning absolutely love it. So I can include, I'm going to make myself a note here. I'm tearing my desk apart looking for a cough drop, but I'm going to make myself a note to look specifically for video editing classes in LinkedIn Learning and send a couple direct links to those. And now I want to go ahead and share my, sorry, see my messy desktop. I'm going to share my browser because I would like to do a demonstration on how to find our take-home tech and place a hold. So I'm going to go to the library's catalog. So this is our catalog in case you're not familiar with it. I like to distinguish between the catalog, which is like the online version of the old card catalog, versus the library's website. The catalog kind of has a blue background, and this is where you'll search for anything in our collection. So actually, since we talked about video editing, the other thing you can do is search the card catalog and video editing fundamentals. So this will actually show you, for the person that asked about video editing classes, you can actually go directly to LinkedIn Learning through the library's catalog too. So if I click on that, it'll kind of give me information. And then if I click on View Course Details, it's going to bring me to LinkedIn Learning. And you'll see kind of, it's got the instructors. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, it's got the chapters. So if I wanted to just quickly jump to color correction, I can just watch that 3-minute video right there. And then it's got transcripts too. So if you want to jump to transcripts or kind of skim the transcripts for what you're looking for, it's a really great resource. All right, so that is how to access LinkedIn Learning through the catalog as well. But I'm going to go ahead and finish today's session by talking about how to place a hold on the library's circulating collection of equipment called take-home tech. So like anything with technology, there's 3 different ways of doing the same thing. We can search, which I'll show you in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and mention just over here on the left-hand side, sometimes we get the question, well, what all do I have the option to check out? And we have this quick link right over here to the left that says take home tech. If we click on that, it's going to open a search result of all the different materials that are available for checkout. So right now we have 49 pieces of equipment. Too bad that mouse is the first one showing up because that's not very impressive, but we've got a couple tripods, a loom, a drawing brush that works with a tablet, different types of laptops available, both PC and Mac. We've got a portable scanner. I'm hoping to add a photo scanner to our collection in the next year, so you can check out a photo scanner that you can take home. So that's just a quick way to browse what's available for checkout in terms of equipment. Now, I want to go ahead and show you the other option. Let me just go to our homepage again. And if I wanted to search for the Elgato video capture, for example, I'll just type in Elgato. And you'll see the search results here. And here's that Elgato video capture. I can read a little bit about it. And then if I wanted to place a hold, I would simply click place hold, type in my library card number. It's that long number on the back of your library card. You're going to type it in with no spaces. And then you're going to type in your 4-digit PIN number. And if you're not sure what your PIN number is, it's probably the last 4 digits of your telephone number. That's how we set the default when we added that extra layer of security and privacy to your library card account a few years ago. So once you do that, it'll ask you which library branch you'd like to pick it up at, and you'll simply you'll select Lake Library or Hopestown Library. And then when it's available, when it's your turn, we'll send it to that branch. And just like any other piece of, any other book you might check out from the library, once you get that notification that it's available for pickup, you'll have up to 3 days to come to the library and pick it up to take home. And then you'll have your 14-day checkout period from there. The other thing I wanted to mention that we have in our catalog records, there's information on how to get the special card, the IdeaLab card. So like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you'll sign that borrowing agreement. If you don't have one on file when you come to pick up the equipment, we'll just have you sign it right there. So we do ask that people allow a few extra minutes because what we'll do when you come to the library to check something out, piece of equipment, we'll make sure all the pieces are there. We'll make sure it turns on. We want to make sure everything's working before we give it to you. And then we'll do the same thing when you bring it back to us. So that's a little bit part of the process. The other thing, if you need a software download, we have tried to add whatever software you need directly into the catalog here. So if you'll remember, the Elgato required a computer and then a free software download. Obviously, we don't want you accidentally downloading anything that might install a virus. And so we've installed the direct link on where to go to get the free software that you'll need for that particular device. So that's all linked in the catalog as well. And some of the equipment, we've also found helpful YouTube videos. 1 or 2 pieces of equipment, we've made our own videos because we couldn't find anything that we loved. So just be sure, just in case you're wondering, we try to put a wealth of information, or we try to put everything that you might need here at your fingertips available when you're home using it on your own. So just as a heads up about that. All right, that's all for my demo. Any questions about, did I cover that okay? Like, let me know if I can demonstrate anything else while I've got this screen up.
We're currently waiting on questions, but I just wanted to go ahead and share my favorite comment so far. And it's, this is awesome.
Yes, it is. And you guys haven't even met Jack yet. Our volunteer. He's great. Thank you for sharing. While we wait for questions, I'll just pull up the equipment borrowing agreement. It is on our website, but like I said, you don't need to print it and bring it in. Like, we've got plenty of copies at the desk. But this is just what it looks like here. You'll initial next to each statement, and then fill out your name, your signature, date of birth. That's just so in case there's multiple people with the same name, we make sure we have the right person on file. So that's what the equipment borrowing agreement looks like. And then let me do, just since I'm here and having my shared screen, this is the Idea Memory Lab website. So you'll see here, we try to put as much information here as possible. So for in-library use only, bring a USB. This is the type of formats it's got. VHS tapes, so same thing. So we've got, and then these will actually link to the library's catalog too. So a few different ways, like I said, technology, 3 different ways to do the same thing. All right, any other questions?
No other questions.
All right, well, I am gonna take a minute to say thank you again for bearing with me during earlier in the session. You've got my email, so feel free to reach out. Thank you, Manny, for doing such a great job of relaying everyone's questions, and I will send out the email to everyone. I try to do it by Wednesday at the latest, but if you got an email from me yesterday, that means I have all of your contact information. And so you'll get the slides, the links. I'm going to include direct links to video editing classes in LinkedIn Learning. I'll link the library's website, the Idea Lab digitization website specifically. And from there, it's got links to our calendar where you can register for sessions with Jack. But again, we love offering this information. We love answering any questions. That's what we're here for. So don't hesitate to reach out. Give us a call if that's easier. We want to make sure we get you connected to the right people and the right equipment. And we're always looking for what other things you want us to try and other things you want us to do and other ways you want us to invest our funds. So we're always open to hear about that too. All right. So thanks everyone and have a great weekend.